Kia ora, welcome back once again, everybody. Here with part 5 of the SAS selection, Jungle Training the Trees, part 3 with Big Phil Campion, former 2-2 SAS operator. So let's jump back in.
Last time I was on then, I talked about selection in the trees in the first 3 weeks, which was a good 3 weeks. It was a training 3 weeks. It was hard. It was full on. It was unrelenting, all right? But that's only the first three or a bit weeks. We now move into a stage where you go fully tactical. Fully tactical means that you are forever as if you are on an operation in the jungle and working behind enemy lines. It's tough. It is extremely tough. You are now in a world where everything you do has to be done as if you were on a war footing. So it's hard routine. There's no hot scoff now. You ain't going to be cooking your dinners, all right? You ain't going to be getting a hot brew. The pressure has now been turned right up, okay? And you are now going to be into this 3-week minimum stage of preparing for an operation, conducting the operation, and actually going through with what it is you've been doing, okay, or tasks to do.
I just love hearing him speak about the tactical nature of it, the intensity of it, how everything ramps up, because it brings back a lot of memories. It makes me smile because it was awesome. I think I've spoken about this. No, I know I've spoken about this on the First Among Equals NZSAS selection course. I don't know what year that one was done, but it was awesome. Like the patrol procedures phase, like on selection, you're not really doing that, apart from the close country navigation aspects. But on cycle and the patrol procedures course, it was always it's well known as a very critical aspect of the course, and that if you don't do well, if you're not performing well and consistently well during that course, it's one of those things that can and will likely make or break you in terms of being able to go on and serve within the unit. In NZ, in Australia, clearly in the UK. And so just hearing him speak about it just brings back a whole bunch of memories. It actually makes me feel like I was out in the bush now. Not necessarily on a war task, but just being out in the bush. There's something about it. And people that enjoy it, people that like going out and being in the bush, just having that silence, maybe it's just, being in silence, having your own space, being in your own head, just taking everything in. When you're with your mates, though, and you're on the course and you're there to do a job or a task, or you've got a mission focus, it's even more fun again. Like I smile and have really good thoughts about what it was like. It was hard. There were parts of it where we got hard, especially when we were cold and then getting stiff and then hungry and you're wet and everything's just soaked through and you got to sit there and go through that. Like there are parts of it that are difficult, but again, it's all part of the requirement of if you want to serve in that unit or not. And so you'll either love it or you'll hate it and you'll have a miserable time.
It's tough, all right? Now, ours, we deployed to another camp where we put up all the gear, okay? So we moved into another, like, harbour area, massive harbour area. We then sort of, like, set up sentries out, all that sort of stuff. And don't forget, just to patrol there is a major thing. So you patrol out. You've got to put in snap ambushes. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You've got to do everything as if you're doing it for real. And the whole time, again, you are being watched. You can guarantee that there'll be somebody somewhere watching what you're doing. So you can't just amble along. You can't just be taking it easy. You have got to be giving it 100% as if you would be for real. Because when you do this stuff for real, you will be giving it 100% because you do not want the enemy watching you. You do not want the enemy suddenly ambushing you out of nowhere and giving you an opportunity to die gallantly for your country. You don't want that, all right? So this is why selection is designed the way it is, so that you have to operate. You have to show people what you can do. And if you can't do it on an exercise, then it will be deemed that you can't do it for real and you will fail. So we moved out into a new harbour area. We then came together for some orders. So with sentries on, how you would do for real. With sentries out, commanders went away. Commanders came back. They were given recce tasks. They were given camp guarding tasks. All these tasks were given, and then people were briefed properly, as if you were on a proper war footing. And I say that unrelentingly. These last 3 weeks, you have to get it through to your mind that you're operating as if you would do for real. Okay? So,
in other words, you have to get it through your thick skull if you're going through this. That's how I'm interpreting it. I'm surprised he didn't say that, actually, given his what appears to be his personality, and very much straight down the line. I love what it is that he's sharing. It's bringing back a whole bunch of memories, really good memories, that tactical awareness, the situation, the need to make sure that you're just doing everything as well as you can, because like you said, you have been watched like a hawk. And if you think you can relax while you're on your courses, on any course, not just the patrol procedures or the jungle phases, jungle training that they call it here, you are wrong, and you're going to find out, and you're going to get, as Big Phil has talked about, you're going to get a tap on the shoulder, you're going to get a come with me, and you may never be seen again by the rest of your cohort. So it's cool that Phil is giving just a massive amount of gold information for anybody that's looking to do the UKSF selection, but even the selection, the cycle for NZ and Australia, for the patrol procedures anyway, in general. I say the cycle for NZ and Australia because our process, or the process in NZ and Australia, is a different selection process to the UK. So, yeah, cool.
Eventually, our orders came in. We went on a recce patrol. We went looking for the enemy. We found the enemy. We came back. We wrote the patrol reports. Okay, the patrol reports now had to be done perfectly because they had to be disseminated by somebody who was going to use that information so that they could act upon what you told them. If you tell them something that isn't true, if you get it wrong, if your depiction of the camp, and don't forget, there's no photographs on my selection, all right? So if the depiction of the camp that you give them isn't the same, someone's going to turn up on target and go, but you told me there was a sentry box here, but actually it's there. And now you can see how these things can go massively wrong, can't you? Okay, so it's pressure all the time. Pressure. So we went out, recce patrol, came back, recce report in. We were then tasked with a smally route clearance thing that we had to do. We then went out and did that. We then had to go out and cache some equipment. We did that. We then started getting ready for this assault that was going to go in on this location that had been identified by various recce patrols. So everybody was now gearing up to this big attack. Patrols went out, standing patrols went out so they could watch. OPs went out so they could observe what was going on and report back and all that sort of stuff. It was, mate, it was so cool. It was just a great experience, this exercise was. And one of the first times really I felt as if, wow, this is so real. This is just awesome. So in the camps that we were recceing, they were properly set up. It wasn't just a scratch together effort. There was Gurkhas patrolling, people being posted on sentry and all that sort of stuff. It was crazy, all right? So you were getting this real sense. I was getting right into it. Towards the end of that first couple of weeks in, we were building up and gearing up for this great big onslaught of the whole of what was left of selection. We're going to attack this camp. You're now getting yourself ready for that attack. And like I say, standing patrols had gone out, recce patrols had gone out, all that had been done. You were now getting a set of orders as a fighting patrol, not an advance to contact, but a proper fighting patrol where we were going to go out. There was going to be, cut-offs for any people escaping from the camp. There was going to be ambushes set around the camp for anybody coming. The whole thing was being done properly. And I was part of a group that were going to be going left flanking on this thing and setting in across the start line and attacking properly. And it was immense. It was great. So we got our orders. We deployed in a patrol. We overnighted. We would patrol for another day. We overnighted. We patrolled for another day. We got ourselves into a layup. We then got ourselves into a start line. We were now ready to go. Okay, it was going to be a dawn attack. So We had to get ourselves in the night before because there's no movement at night in the jungle. So we got ourselves into a sort of like forming up point the night before. We slept in the forming up point, all right, as much as you can do, with one guy obviously permanently on sentry. So you rippled down, you get your tap, you stay up for your hour, you get your tap, you stay up for your hour. We were laid up all night. First thing in the morning, you're ready, and you go into this attack. We attacked the position, okay? It went really well. But again, because you could have been lulled into a false sense of security, you could have thought, this is it, this is over. No, it wasn't over. There was positions in depth. There was other stuff going on, and you're like, wow, when is this going to end? We then got news back, yes, that camp's dealt with, but now we need to go in another direction, more recce patrols. We had to follow up onto another camp. We're like, wow, this is going to carry on. We're going to go somewhere else now. We did. We went and attacked another camp, so the recce patrols had to go in, the Stanley patrols went out, the ambushes, all that sort of stuff went on. So we kept going not only through our camp, but then onto another camp. This must have only been done deliberately to see, you know, who's actually going to throw it around up and say, I've had enough here. You know what I mean? And quite a few people did. All right, there was people going, I've had enough of this. All right, at that stage of selection. All right, this is when the turbo bluffers are being caught out. This is the ones who managed to bluff it so far, but now this is too much for them. Like, you know what I mean? So. Yeah, it was.
Man, there's a heck of a lot in there. I wanted to stop it earlier, but he was on such a roll, so I tried to find a little opportunity where there was a brief pause. There's a brief one there, not really quite much of a pause because he's about to keep going again, but a heck of a lot of information in there from Big Phil. Awesome information in there too. I loved, if I go from the bluffers or the turbo bluffers, I think is the term that he used, crack up, just that relentless ongoing to the next task, the next assault, the next mission, and thinking that it's not going to end. To echo what he was saying, at this part of selection you want to pull off now, it's good that they do that there. I don't recall anything like that on the NZ or the Australian cycle patrol procedures. What I do recall though is that a lot of similarities in there, but I do recall that we never knew when it was going to be over. Like we didn't have just because we completed one task and the next task, we never had a thought, or I never had a thought or feeling like, okay, this is over. This is done. We can go non-tac now, or we can relax. Never had that feeling. You knew when it was over because the exercise ended and you had all your debriefs and everything and you were told that it was over. If you didn't get any of that, if you weren't having the debriefs, if you weren't told this is index and you're going through the reports and then you're having your debriefs, you were the SIG, let's have a look at your comms and what did you get right, what did you get wrong, what do you need to improve on, etc., then you were still fully engaged in the task and getting ready for the next aspect or the next mission for that patrol procedures course. So just hearing them speak about this and then them flowing on to the next task and the next task whilst you're out in the bush, treating it as though it's a live operation, a live job, it gives you a bit of a sense in and around the nature of the work and the realities that come with that. If you're wanting to serve in the unit or in the SAS or in the Special Forces and you're deployed and you are in the scenario that he's talking about behind enemy lines and that's what you're doing, you may not get extracted or you may not get the return to base call up. You may stay out there and then need to go to the next job, then the next job, then the next task or the next area of operation or AO to clear that and to do a whole bunch of other things. You may end up and you'll likely end up going for weeks, sometimes months on end without a wash, without a shower. So your field hygiene, those sorts of things need to be onto it. You need to make sure that you can look after yourself out in the field for extended periods of time where you don't get to have a nice hot wash, where you don't get to, have all your soap and all the other things that you want to use or that you use when you're back in the comfort of your own home. You need to be able to look after yourself well so that you don't become a liability, so that you don't go down getting crook or being blank and unable to function because you haven't taken care of yourself, your personal hygiene and everything else that goes along with that. So just really enjoy his energy. And the other part that I wanted to mention, I was trying to make out on his t-shirt, I don't sweat, I effing sparkle. I love that one. I'm going to remember that one. So anyway, lots of great stuff here with Big Phil. So let's crack back into
it. It was intense. It was heavy. And like I say, I remember getting to the end of the second attack, the second camp attack that we did, going into a reorg, getting myself into a fire position and thinking to myself, right, okay, what's happening now? What's coming on next? Not as you could have well been thinking, oh, that's it, we're done now, all right? No, I was always thinking about what they could do next, where we might be going, not switching off, all right? So ready to go the whole time. And I remember the DS came round and sort of like kicked me Bergen, right, that's it, Index, son. No, fuck off. No, it's not. No, I'm thinking to myself, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, I'll just carry on. And come around again, kick me on the back leg. Son, you can get off your Bergen now. You need to start getting yourself ready. We've got the helis coming. I'm looking around. Other people have now started to get up. And I'm thinking to myself, that's it. That's the end of the jungle. We've done it. And I remember we all got our kit, had a quick clean up of the area, picked up the brass like you do. Do you know what I mean? The brass chickens came out. All right, we're picking up some brass. I'm thinking, wow, that's the end of the trees. That is the end of the jungle phase on selection. I don't know if I've passed or failed now. I've got no idea whatsoever if I've passed or failed, all right? None. Nothing. And the DS don't give you anything. There's no, yeah, well done, son. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Well done, son. Do you know what I mean? There's none of that, all right? Straight faces. So all you can do really is enjoy your extraction. I remember going to the helipad. There's only 4 left in my brick now. We'd had another guy from another brick had come and all that sort of stuff. Team, fire team, whatever you want to call it. Okay, we were now a completely different composite as to what we started off. All the teams were different. You know, there was still quite a few Ruperts left. There was still quite a few people left on the course. Down to the helipad, sat on my Bergen. And I remember hearing the first chopper come, and it come, and the first team got on, off they went. I remember before I knew it was our turn, we were loading up the helicopter, sat on the skids again, and we're picking up, and we can see daylight properly for the first time in probably 6 weeks. We'd actually seen anything other than the canopy, like, do you know what I mean? So now we're above it, we're flying along. The pilot's being Ali, but I'm being Ali now because I've just completed. I haven't passed yet, but I've just completed SAS selection in the trees, so I'm feeling quite Ali now. The helicopter pilot's giving it, and I get a tap on the shoulder, and the loadmaster handed me a can of Foster's. All right. Now, it might be training beer to me and you, but after 6 weeks in the jungle, I felt a little bit lightheaded, and it was probably the fact I was sat on the skid of the chopper, all right, having a can of beer, feeling this is quite surreal now. Do you know what I mean? I've just completed SAS selection in the trees, and I've got a can of beer, and I'm sat on this chopper, and I was quite happy with life. And to be fair, right, if you'd have said to me, if you'd have ended my career there and said, right, you failed, I probably would have just taken it on the chin and walked away and thought, well, I had a great time. I got to the end of the trees. I felt superb. And that chopper ride out with that can of beer in my hand, one of the best things I've ever done in my life. All right.
That's pretty cool to hear. Again, lots in there. Just he's been on a real good flow, so I didn't want to jump in, as I have been guilty of doing a heck of a lot. So apologies for that. And thank you for the feedback too. Ali, he's used Ali, so that's from memory. Those that have been kind enough to tell me what Ali means over there, like it's cool. It's a cool thing. Like, I think that the comment that was put in there, being a fighter jet pilot is the most Ali thing ever, or something like that. Or it's cool means it's cool. So he's feeling pretty good about himself, is how I take that, when he was talking about his extraction, sitting in the chopper, can of beer in his hand. I loved how he spoke about getting the kick on the Bergen on his pack, and or on the back of the leg, and being told, yeah, that's it, Index now, like we're all done. And he's thinking, no, whatever. No, it's not. It just brought back some memories for me in terms of just Australian cycle in general after completing selection. And then I think I've touched on this before, I've got to do a video which people have asked for in terms of NZ cycle and Australian cycle, what it was like. But I remember when we were told that we could, call them by their nickname or their first names, that sort of thing, and not staff or sir, I thought that was a blinking scam as well. I thought they were trying to trip me up. So hard case hearing them speak about that. Is like, no, I'm going to stay here, still stay tactical. I don't believe you. And as I mentioned before, and as he mentioned, like, you don't know if you've passed. You get to the end, they'll tell you, you'll know when the exercise is over. Even then, you might still have a little bit of skepticism, like he clearly did. But then once it's over, you still don't know if you've passed. You don't know if you've done well. It's exactly the same in New Zealand, the same in Australia. You don't get a, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like he mentioned. Well done, lad. Yep, you've done well. You have no idea. You're just hoping that, okay, that's this course done. Do all your deservicing, everything else, debriefing, etc. And you just hope that you're still there for the next phase of the cycle, or the next phase of the course, or the next course that's coming up. So great to hear him talk about it. So many similarities between, obviously, what the UK does, and a lot of what their selection involves is incorporated into, from my experience anyway, in my time, seems to be incorporated into the New Zealand cycle and the Australian cycle. So those elements, but the selection, this is all part of the UK SF selection course. So that's where I think some of the differences are. 6-month selection course where they're doing all of this stuff, and then I think once you get badged, then you're on a 12 or 18-month probationary. So training wheels are still under the microscope, as you should be. And yeah, different to the New Zealand and the Australian selection courses, and then the reinforcement cycle of training.
So cool. Got back to camp, straight off camp, into an admin frenzy now. An admin frenzy of people packing, collapsing stuff, getting. An opportunity has arose now to let yourself write down, because what you do is that first night back in, once your weapons are in and you're sort of like in a half clean state, you have a night on the lash. Oh, yes, a night on the lash. And if there's anything that could ever let me down any quicker than a night on the lash, it's a night on the lash. You know me. And in the day, well, you didn't know me. You wouldn't have wanted to know me, because I was a menace with a few beers inside me. And I got every opportunity that night to show my full potential as a complete drunk, all right? And I didn't let them down.
I can just imagine what a menace he must have and would have been like, with a few beers in his hand and being on the lash, or getting on the gas, or being on the PISS, chugging back a few beverages, or beveraginos, or whatever the blinking term is. It's been that long since, I haven't drunk since 1999. So I can't speak to what that's like these days, but I could just, hearing and seeing Big Phil speak, I could just imagine what a menace he would be like on the lash with the lads. So hard case hearing him talk about it. One thing I forgot to mention in the last part was when he spoke about if he got told that was it, and he didn't pass he got as far as completing the jungle phase, the trees, and then he didn't progress on. I think he mentioned that, he'd be pretty happy. Yeah, that's interesting too, to me. But again, I think probably my youth probably had a lot to do with it. I still was of the mindset, well, if I haven't made it into the unit, then I'm going to reapply and come back. I'm going to call it, naive or stubborn or dumb, whatever. But I just was not going to be satisfied until I made it into the unit. That was just me personally. And so hearing these things, some people think, well, you've given it your best and they've said no. But I still just wholeheartedly believe, just reapply again. Reapply, throw your hat back in the ring. If you have to do selection and all of cycle again, well, then you do it all again. Which was the case of what I ended up having to do in Australia. So I just think it's really worth it. That's why. So that's why I share that. Anyway, back to this menace on the lash.
I raided the cookhouse. I got completely steaming. Did all sorts of stuff, peed where I shouldn't pee, all that sort of stuff. The score, do you know what I mean? Anyway, in the morning, I'm laid in bed with a hangover that could kill a whole platoon of RAF Reds, do you know what I mean? It would absolutely have murdered them, right? I'm in bed like, reaching for me water bottle. It's still got Puree tabs in it. You know what I mean? And worse, the clerk is walking around now, tapping people on the shoulder, going, get yourself down to the DS, son. And these are the people that have failed. So now, if you get, and he walked past my bed a couple of times, and I'm going, sort of like pulling my shoulder back into my sleeping bag, thinking, don't touch me. You know what I mean? Don't touch me, go away. Anyway, after about 2 hours of this, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, he ain't been around me yet. He ain't there. And I see him in his civvies, the clerk. He's now got his civvies on it. I think he must have finished. everyone who's been tapped now and told that they've failed, that must be it. So I'll sort of like have a little venture about. And you knew in your own mind, really, looking around, who was likely to pass and who had failed. So you're sort of like, well, he's still here. He's there. Oh, I didn't expect to see him, but he's there. All right. And you think to yourself, wow, this is it. And after about another hour of wondering and nobody coming round, the DS came round and sort of like said, right, you'll be going back to Hereford, blah, blah, blah. And then no sort of like, well done, or chuck up or anything like that. Right, you'll be going back to Hereford. Obviously, you've got 2 or 3 days now collapsing with the other lads. Try not to make it seem too obvious that you're that happy. All right. And that was it. That was your brief. Like, you know what I mean? I went for a walk down the beach with a friend of mine, Daz. And me and Daz went down the beach and I'm like, I got out of earshot and I'm like, I was absolutely buzzing. I'm like, ah! And then sort of like went back to camp and to go, I feel really sorry for that bloke. The bloke's like, oh, you didn't deserve to fail, mate. No. Definitely not bullshit.
Crack up. Okay, man, just seeing, I can relate to how euphoric it would have been to know that you've passed and to know that you pass each stage. So obviously, again, NZ Australia, the cycle's different. That's where our stage gates are, and when you're going through, and when you pass each course, it's like you're like, it's awesome. You're grateful, you're thankful, you're excited, you're pumped, you're amped, whatever you want to call it. So just seeing his expression, man, just brings back a lot of really good memories. It's funny when you're speaking again. Oh yeah, because you do sort of, I think anyway, have a sort of idea of who's at least within your team, or Brick he was talking about within your patrol. You do have a reasonably good idea, I think anyway, of who you think is doing well, who you think is a good operator in this phase of the course and the patrol procedures, and who you would want to go to war with. And so when he was talking about looking around, oh yeah, he's still here. Yeah, that's good. And then he's like, oh, you're still here. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't expect that, but oh, okay. So those things do happen. Those thoughts do happen, and people may have been thinking that about me. So what goes around comes around. But I just love his reactions because I can connect and resonate with so much of it, and just hearing him, he just seems to be in a bit of a flow state when he's talking through. So that's why there's longer, I suppose, pauses, which I think people probably would rather anyway, longer pauses rather than me chiming in every blink in 20-30 seconds. So let's get back to Big Phil, and I'm guessing he's nearing the end of wrapping this one.
You know what I mean? Anyway, that was it. That was the end of the selection. And then you all get on a big plane and you fly back to Hereford. Now, nowadays, I believe they tell you when you get back to Hereford, because that plane really was. There was sort of like blokes who passed on one side of the plane, sort of like trying not to smile too much, and blokes who'd failed on the other side of the plane, obviously in absolute clip, having just been the length of SAS selection in the jungle and told, actually, mate, no thanks. Honking, how do you feel? Do you know what I mean? How's your luck? Horrendous, isn't it? So that was a strange flight back to Hereford. I'll tell you all about how it went when I got back to Hereford, but I won't tell you now. I'll tell you next time. But believe me when I say the jungle was awesome.
That's awesome. What a way to wrap things up, and listening to Big Phil talking about the plane ride back to Hereford, or Hereford, leaving the H's off. The piece that I forgot to mention when he speaks about, Eureka celebrating and then going back, oh, gee, yeah, sorry, mate, you shouldn't have got removed, blah, blah, blah. I don't recall ever doing anything like that personally. I do know that, I felt anyway, felt bad for those that got removed when I would find out whether that was in NZ or in Australia. There are some men in both that I, was surprised that they got removed. And I was also grateful when I found out later on, particularly some of the lads here in NZ who got to go back again on the cycle, and they passed and they got badged and they served within the unit, because I always felt those guys that were on where we were on the same cycle, that they should have still been there when I was there. That was my take anyway. So yeah, I don't recall having those thoughts. Like if there was somebody that I felt, probably good that they were no longer there, I don't remember ever seeing them or needing to, have a conversation and go, oh, sorry about what's happened, mate. Like I can't recall any of those types of conversations that I had, but it's funny listening to Big Phil talk about that, and that flight back. Yeah, it must have been pretty gutting and devastating for those that weren't hadn't passed or weren't progressing on to the rest of their selection phase of whatever's coming up next. But it is what it is. It's a tough one, and the standards and the process and that whole selection process clearly for 2-2, for NZ, for Australia, it's been tried, tested, proven, it works, and there's no real need to change something if it's working and functioning the way that it's meant to. So massive respect to Big Phil for putting out this series. That's this one done. So we'll wrap this one up here. As always from me, thank you all very much for your time, for your kind support, for the comments, for the requests, for the questions, for even the opinions that may be vastly different from mine. I appreciate it all. Even the ones that want to slag me off on here. So you see some of those on there, I just leave them. Like I said, a person has taken the time to put it on there. A person has taken the time to come across my channel and watch it, and they felt that that's what they want to put down. Thinking more power to them, man. Hopefully things are going well for them. That being said, that's probably a good segue, right? You know, whatever obstacles, challenges, trials that you may be going through, whatever abuse you may receive from time to time, hey, know that there are better days ahead. Know that unless it's coming from people that you genuinely care about and that you know genuinely care about you, who gives a rat's of what it is that they had to say, right? So keep doing you, keep being you, keep staying in the fight, keep turning up. Know that the sun will shine again, that there are better days ahead. Know that you are capable and able to go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins. Once again, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And as always, a big mana wave from me to you. Until the next video,